What does it mean to be neurodivergent? Is it a diagnosis? Why do some people relate to the term neurodivergent and others don't? Is everyone a little bit neurodivergent? Hopefully by the end of this video, you will understand a little bit more about what it means to be neurodivergent. Neurodiversity is a term that encompasses all of humanity. Every single person falls into the neurodiversity spectrum. Neuro means nervous system, diversity means range of expression. If you're neurodivergent, it means that you present certain characteristics that are outside of the normal, typical expression of a human's abilities. For example, we have all different types of senses. We have our eyes, we have our ears, taste, smell, touch, balance, and all of these things are controlled by your nervous system. But everybody has a unique nervous system. Neurodiversity is a term that we use to describe a mathematical function, which is a normal distribution. You may have seen this before. In statistics, mathematics, this is what we call a normal distribution. And up on this axis, we have the population. So the number of people that represent some kind of physical trait. So we could measure, let's say we could measure height. And if we measure every single human, there will be 0 and up to whatever the tallest person is. Let's just call it 300 for now. So on here, you would have a range of values. And here is the number of people that fall under that range of values. So if you see the middle part is more people. The area underneath the curve is the total number of people. So if you exist here or here, you are in the divergent part of the spectrum. This is, if you draw a line here and here, this would be typical. This is most people, but there are some people that will exist in the divergent end. So neurodiversity is everybody under the curve. Neurotypical is the people in the middle, the biggest number of people. And then neurodivergent is the people on the outsides, the outsiders. I like to call them the outsiders because we're a little bit weird, we're a little bit different. People look at us and like, oh, what's that guy? That's a strange expression of a human. Don't like that. Makes me feel uncomfortable. And quite often people will be quite cruel if you are different. Normal is not a bad word. Normal just describes this distribution, and this happens in all biological systems. You are a human being, but this applies to all species. There is always some variation in genetics. You have your DNA, and your DNA codes for proteins, and then the proteins have a structure, and those structures have a function. So if you have a change in your DNA that causes this protein to have a different structure to standard, then that different protein will have a different function. And if you multiply this up over the thousands of different genes that you have in your genome, you will see that that's how we create the vast range of human experience. Everybody has a different experience of what it's like to be human. And your experience is unique to you. Only you have your genetics. So neurodiversity is all of the range of DNA that creates the different proteins. Neurodivergent is certain types of DNA mutations create different structured proteins which have different functions. And if you have a different functioning system that's outside the normal range, then something is either going to be more than normal or less than normal. So if you take, let's just say, if we're going to take focus. If you have ADHD, you'll know that it's really hard to focus sometimes. There's going to be people that can't focus for more than a few seconds. There's going to be other people that can focus for hours. But most people are in the middle. And because most people are in the middle, society is designed for these people because they're the most common expression of a human. But if you're in this part or in this part, the world that's designed for these people doesn't work for you very well. If you are someone in this end of the curve, then interacting with the world can be more difficult because the world is designed for these people and doesn't take into account that there are more variations of humans. If like height, for example, we've built the world for the average type of person, but some people are smaller, some people are really, really, really tall. It doesn't mean that the small people or the tall people are broken or disordered or something wrong with them. They're just different expressions of genetics. Doesn't mean that they're bad, they're wrong, they're broken, they're disordered. They're just different. They're just different expressions of the same human experience, but one side or the other. They're either less or more, hypo or hyper. Hypo means less, hyper means more. So if we take focus, you can hyper-focus. You can focus on something for 24 hours and not lose focus. This is something that a lot of people with ADHD can do. Now, sometimes they have control over it, sometimes they don't. But also you can have hypo, where you can't focus at all. Maybe you can't focus on this video. I'm going to try and make it as engaging as I can with a little, it's a bit of a scientific video, so I'm not sure how many people will follow along with it. But this gives you a rough idea of what neurodiversity means. Neurodiversity is everybody. Divergent people are the small minority that have hyper or hypo sensitivity to a particular trait. There are different diagnoses that are regarded as neurodivergent. You can have ADHD. You're going to have autism. Tourette's. OCD. Dyslexia. Apraxia, calculia. There's lots of different disorders, dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, ADHD, autism, Tourette's, OCD. There are lots of different versions of diagnoses, and what those diagnoses mean is that for certain traits, you exist either in this section or in this section. You can exist in more than one at the same time. You can have ADHD plus autism. You can have ADHD plus autism plus Tourette's. Or you can have ADHD and dyslexia. You can mix and match all of these different things because your particular variation of your genome will have genes in for all of these different things. A lot of people say, oh, everyone's a little bit autistic. Well, that's not actually true because most people live in the middle of this line. If you test people, if you test the whole population, you test all 8.3 billion people, and you draw the graph, most people will be in the middle of the graph. They will not be regarded as being autistic. It's the people that are in the ends of the graph that are diagnosed. Where this line actually is drawn may vary depending on who's doing the testing. It's not, a fixed, or if you're just one bit over, then you're autistic. It's a spectrum, it's a variation. It can be expressed in many different ways. So you can be multiple things, or you can be just one. You can maybe you have ADHD and nothing else, or you can have ADHD, autism, and dyslexia or dyspraxia. Dyspraxia is all about balance and coordination. So if you find it difficult to do things where you have to coordinate your body, like swimming or riding a bike or dancing to a specific choreography, then you may be dyspraxic. You fall over all the time. I'm always bumping into things, falling over, have terrible balance, terrible coordination. So I would probably be diagnosed with dyspraxia if I was a child in today's world. But when I was a kid, there was no diagnosis of dyspraxia. And dyscalculia is your ability to do maths. Dyslexia is your ability to read. And there's lots more. This is not going to be a comprehensive video of everything that is included in neurodiversity, because that would take forever. So I hope that you understand now what it means during neurodiversity, neurotypical, and neurodivergent. It means that these people are hyper or hypo-reactive to a specific trait that we're measuring. Okay, let's do a little bit more of a deeper dive into ADHD. I'm not going to go through all of them, all the different diagnoses, because that would take too long. We're just going to explain a little bit more. So, if you don't know, which you should do by now because it's quite popular, ADHD means attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It means that for certain traits that we measure, impulsivity, focus, attention, and activity. These are the main characteristics of ADHD. So if you have your three normal distributions, so this one will be impulsivity, you have a bell curve on each one. In order to be diagnosed as having ADHD, they will do an assessment of you, and if you exist somewhere here on multiple traits, then you can get a diagnosis of ADHD. But everyone exists at some point on this curve. Everyone has trouble focusing sometimes. Everyone has moments of being hypo or hyperactive. Everyone has impulsivity issues sometimes. What creates the diagnosis of ADHD is if it happens all the time. It's more like an average of how often you are in these outer ranges. If you're always in the outer ranges for attention and focus and activity, then you will be diagnosed with ADHD. If it's only occasionally, or if it's triggered by some event that's external, but most of the time you're existing in the middle, then you maybe wouldn't get a diagnosis of ADHD. But everyone exists at some point on this curve. So that's why some people say, oh, everyone's a little bit ADHD, everyone's a little bit autistic. And that's just not true. Because in order to be diagnosed, you have to be in these extreme ends of the spectrum. If you can focus for, say, 90 minutes without any additional support, then that's regarded as being typical. That's why school is divided into usually sections of 90 minutes, so that you've got most people able to focus for that time. But you're going to have some kids in the class that can't focus at all. one minute and they're fidgeting in their seat, or they're talking, or they're shouting, or they're moving around, or they're just causing chaos in the classroom because they need to be moving. Hyperactivity, if they're hyperactive, they're in this part of the distribution curve, and if they can't focus and they're hyperactive, and maybe they're super impulsive, maybe they do things that are dangerous or regarded by society as criminal or other things, they do things without thinking about it, they just do them, then if you add up all of the different traits of a person, you will decide whether they are ADHD or not. But there's different variations of ADHD. You can have inattentive, there's a combined type, and this is not for diagnosis, so I'm not going to go into all the details of it, but just you need to understand that there's just a range of different effects of the variations in your genes. And the way we've designed society is for these people in the middle. So the people on the outside are left out of things. They're not able to learn in the same way. They're not able to behave in the same way. But it doesn't mean because they can't do something that there's something wrong with them. It just means that they need different support. This is where environment is absolutely key. Genetics isn't isolated. Genetics has an environment around it. If you are a cell doesn't exist on its own. The cell exists in an environment. And going into that cell is sensory information from its environment. And this cell will process the environment. Or this could be your brain. And coming into your brain is sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. You've got all these sensory inputs going into your brain, and your brain will process those sensory inputs. But if you have some kind of neurodivergent traits, then the processing of these information, it's just vibration information, it will be processed differently. So you can be hypersensitive to light. For your eyes, I'm super sensitive to bright lights, fluorescent lights or LED headlights on cars. They blind me when I'm trying to drive at nighttime. But I'm hyposensitive to sound. I'm completely deaf in my right ear, but my left ear is reasonably normal. My taste and my smell are super sensitive. If there's anyone smoking within like 20 meters of me, it just makes me feel sick. I'm hypersensitive to smell. I'm hypersensitive to taste. A lot of people have ARFID, and ARFID is a eating disorder that's related to taste and texture of food, and some things are absolutely repulsive and gives you a physical reaction in your body if you try to eat it. A lot of autistic people have eating disorders, or ADHD people have eating disorders, either from sensory seeking or sensory avoiding. One of the main things is everybody has a different set of sensory abilities. And sometimes, if you are hypersensitive to a certain thing, if you're hypersensitive to sound, then living in a city is absolutely horrific. It can be painful to your ears. It's not just annoying. It can actually be physically painful to experience something when it's a sensory overload. So when you're out and about in the normal society, it can be extremely difficult. That's why a lot of autistic people will wear noise-cancelling headphones, because that can drown out some of the background noise and enable their brain to actually work a little bit better. I have to wear sunglasses when I'm outside, even when it's not particularly sunny. If I don't wear sunglasses, then I'm squinting like that. I get headaches. It's just really horrible. So I wear sunglasses so that I can actually open my eyes and not be in pain. But people look at you weird. It's like, it's not sunny. Why are you wearing sunglasses? Why are you wearing headphones all the time? Well, because I'm doing that so that I can adapt my sensory experience to the world. Because the world won't adapt to me. The world doesn't care. But if I can't function in the world, I need to use tools in order to make my functioning a little bit easier. With ADHD, there is not much treatment other than giving you drugs to manage your dopamine levels. But that means you're going to be reliant on pills for your entire life. Or you can try to learn some skills that will help you with nervous system regulation. And that's what I teach in my coaching programs, is nervous system regulation for people who want to live a better life but don't want to be dependent on substances in order to live. There's no shame against people who do need medication for help, but if you find that it doesn't work very well for you, or you find that the side effects of medication are not worth it for you, then you need to find alternative ways to exist. And that's what I help people work through, is lifestyle changes that can improve the quality of life without needing to have medication. But if you need medication, that is absolutely your choice to do that. I'm not shaming anyone for needing medication, but there are different things that you can do to help you live a better life without them if you modify your environment. This is why my course that I teach, BPM Lifestyle is biochemical. This is your DNA. Dan? No. DNA. Physical is your environment. And M is your mind, your mental state. If you modify your environment and you try to control your thought patterns, you can affect your DNA expression. It's called epigenetics. I'm not going to go into that in this video, but the BPM lifestyle is about how to modify your thoughts and your environment to improve your health through daily practices of nervous system regulation. But we will go into that in a different video. If you want to know more about that, there are lots more videos on my channel about the BPM lifestyle. So, if you exist in the ends of the curve, you are neurodivergent. If you exist in the middle of the curve, you are neurotypical. That's a basic introduction to what it means. Let's talk a little bit about autism. Now, the full name is Autism Spectrum Disorder. Autism spectrum disorder. What does that even mean? Well, spectrum disorder is, as I said, if you're in the outside parts of the normal distribution curve, then you take a trait, for example, social communication, social skills, your ability to interact with other people, to make eye contact with them, to read their facial expressions, to communicate clearly what your needs are, understand what their needs are. These are skills that you need as a human being in order to interact with other human beings. And people with autism can have difficulties with social communications. We don't understand the social rules, why people make up nonsense and just expect everybody else to follow their stupid rule without giving any reason why. If there's a rule, then okay, I'll follow the rule, but I want to know why. Why do I have to do this? And if you can't tell me a good reason why, or if you just say, because I said so, or because tradition says so, or any other just nonsensical reason, it can be a logical, reasonable definition of why this is necessary. Like, for example, a rule, don't kill people. Okay, because, yeah, that's not very nice to kill someone. But But what clothes I wear is no one's business. No one gets to tell me what clothes I'm allowed to wear. But in society, there's all these unwritten rules about what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to speak, how you're supposed to behave, what you're allowed to do, what you're allowed to not do. And everyone has their own version of the rules. And you have to psychically guess what everyone's rules are. And most people seem to have this unwritten law that this is how people interact, that they don't teach autistic people. And then if the autistic person doesn't follow the social communication rules that they're supposed to follow, then they get some kind of abuse, or they're rejected, or they're made fun of, or whatever way people would say, oh, you're weird, you're not behaving the way that I want you to behave, so therefore you're bad and I'm better than you. That's what most people seem to, how they behave. I don't know why that's the case, but that's the way it is. Social communication challenges represent one of the biggest things that autistic people struggle with. I struggle with direct communication with people. People misunderstand what I say all the time, even though I try to speak in a way that is accurate, factual, using dictionary definitions of words, but people twist what I say and make up a whole load of stuff that I didn't actually say, because in their head, they hear something completely different. And I can't understand why people do that, but that's what they do. They don't think logically and rationally. They think with the society rules they were programmed with. And it's very bizarre to me. But you can also have sensory issues. Sensory sensitivities. That can be all of the senses. It could be your taste, touch, smell, sound, eyes, everything. It could be hypersensitive, or it can be hyposensitive. For example, some people have a really, really high pain threshold. Other people, the slightest touch is extremely painful. Or you can have sensitive skin to the fact that just the tags in clothes or certain textures of fabric can be really uncomfortable, and it just feels like something crawling over your skin all the time, or you're being scratched or poked, and it's really, really uncomfortable. And that might cause a kid to fidget a lot, or they just look like they're uncomfortable in their own skin. And all you need to do is let them wear clothes that work with their sensory challenges. I can't wear wool. If I wear wool, I'm itching all over. It's extremely uncomfortable, so I don't wear wool. If you don't like the tags in your clothes, the washing tags, then you can cut them out. But some people also have problems with socks. I never wear shoes and socks. I'm pretty much barefoot 100% of the time, because I absolutely hate having my sensory feedback from the world cut off. I need to feel the world. I need to know where I am in space and time. Otherwise, I'm floating away into my mind, into the universe, and I don't focus on what I'm doing. So by staying barefoot, I stay grounded into the physical reality. But you may be hypersensitive to lights. The fluorescent lights in a supermarket can be extremely intense for some people. For sounds, you can either be deaf, or you can be super, super sensitive. And the world is a very noisy place. Especially if you live in a city, you've got all the cars running around, you've got all the people, you've got roadworks, you've got music, you've got all these sounds all coming at you together. And it's just overload for some people's brains. And if you're super sensitive, then you need to figure out ways that you can deal with that super sensitivity. Another thing that is related to autism is special interests. My handwriting's terrible. Special interests. What does that even mean? So what's special? I don't like the word special interests, but it's something that an autistic person is interested in that is not popular. That's all it is to me. There's something that I really like to do and I can do all day without getting bored of it, that most people would think, oh, that's a bit weird. Why did you like that? It can be the most common, popular one is autistic people like trains. Well, okay, some autistic people do like trains, but some autistic people like collecting a certain thing. I collect unicorns. I have lots of different things that I collect. It can be a specific activity that they enjoy to do that other people don't like. In society, there seems to be only a certain few activities that people are allowed to do, and if you do those, it's okay. If you play sport, okay, that's normal. But if you like to research bugs or something, or collect stamps, or do some other activity that is outside of normal society's expectations of what is a fun thing to do, and you're really hyper-focused on doing that thing, and you really love that thing, and you study it for years. One of my main special interests is chemistry, biology, chemistry, or all science, really. I started studying science when I was 6 years old, because I need to know how the universe works. If I know how the universe works, then I can live a better quality of life. So, people have special interests that are sometimes regarded as being weird or different, but there's nothing wrong with being different. There's nothing, doesn't mean you're some kind of bad person because you like something that's different. Another thing that is quite common is routines. I like to know what I'm doing. I like to set a plan. I like to have a list of tasks that I do. If I don't do that, then I forget what I'm doing. I want to know what time I'm going to be doing something, where I'm going to be, and I plan that in advance. And if something externally changes that routine, some emergency happens, or someone doesn't keep an agreement that they've made to meet me somewhere at a certain time, or they cancel on me, and it messes up the plan that's in my head of what's going to happen, it gets really annoying. I don't like having my routine disrupted. You can also have, let's just call it stimming. Stimming is a repetitive movement that results in sensory feedback. So, for example, someone might be really excited and they might flap their arms, and yeah, or they may hit themselves. They may hit themselves in the head. They may seek out a specific texture or smell. They may like to stroke certain textures. I had a blanket when I was a kid. I like to feel the satin fabric. I like to stroke things. I like to watch things that are moving rhythmically. It's like it soothes my mind a little bit. It's a pattern recognition kind of feeling. So if I see a pattern and I recognize that pattern, and that pattern is moving in a rhythmic way, it kind of soothes my nervous system a little bit. I like watching music visuals. So a lot of people have a program on their computer or a screensaver that moves to music. I like to watch these kinds of things. Or having some kind of a bouncing or a swinging. A lot of people, autistic people, like swings. I just like to have some kind of movement. I like to always be moving. I'm hyperactive in the fact that I don't like to sit down, be quiet, don't speak, don't have any sensory feedback at all. Just don't move like they make you do at school, which is really, really boring. I can't handle that. I need to move. I need to move my hands. I need to stimulate my body. That's why I stay barefoot, because the floor stimulates my feet. And every change in my environment, my brain recognizes, oh, there's a change in environment, and it releases more neurochemicals to make me feel good. And if I stop moving, stop stimulating my nervous system, within a few minutes I'm itching, I'm uncomfortable, pain starts to come into me, and I need to move. It's not that I want to move. I have to move. If I don't move, if I'm not stimulating my body, I need to stim in some way, I feel much better. That's why my leg will bounce under the table while I'm working, or I'll play with pens. I'll doodle on some paper. I'll do something that I'm using my body to move. Because every time I move my body, I'm releasing dopamine. Because in order to move a muscle, your brain has to send a dopamine signal. And I need this all the time. If I don't move, if I don't stimulate myself, then my whole body stops working properly. And this is what the ADHD drugs do. They basically stimulate you artificially using chemicals instead of stimulating yourself by moving, because kids have to be quiet, sit down, shut up, don't speak, and don't do anything, which is absolutely ridiculous that kids are made to do this. So I like to stim all the time. This is not comprehensive. There are many, many different ways that autism is expressed. Some people are hyperverbal, some people are nonverbal. In some situations, I'm nonverbal. I will not speak to anyone. I will barely even be able to think of what to say to someone. And then in other situations, I won't stop talking. It depends who I'm with. If I'm with someone that I trust and I know that I'm safe with them, then my brain relaxes and will just let me talk like all day, non-stop. In other situations, I freeze. I physically freeze. My body just will not speak. And that doesn't mean that I'm broken. It just means that the situation, the environment that I'm in is unsupportive of my sensory needs, and my brain is uncomfortable. It's shutting down and disconnecting from the world. So if you take all of these traits and you put them on a normal distribution, then sometimes you'll be here, sometimes you'll be here. For some things, you might still be here. But if there's enough things that put you in the ends of the spectrum, then you would potentially have a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. But this isn't for diagnosis purposes, this is just for information. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the They're called disorders, the dyslexia, praxia, calculia. There's more, but I'm just going to do these because otherwise the video will be hours long and maybe you're bored. Dyslexia is reading. So can you read what I'm writing on here? If you struggle with reading, then you may be dyslexic. Dyspraxia is about balance. Balance and coordination. That includes handwriting. If you're unable to control a pen and write nice, neat handwriting, that could be partly due to dyspraxia. I couldn't ride a bike when I was a kid. I could never learn how to swim, fall over all the time. It was horrible. And calculia is all about your ability to do maths. Some people absolutely love maths. I like maths. I'm good at maths. I did A-level maths in 1 year, which was quite a challenge, but I did it. Some people absolutely can't do maths whatsoever. And that's okay. There are ways that we have today using technology that we can improve our ability to do maths. And if you have dyslexia, then perhaps you can have AI read for you. There's many different ways that you can adapt to having these conditions. If you've got one of these conditions or more than one of these conditions, then there are support programs out in the world that can teach you how to cope better with them. But they're all based on nervous system functions. So your ability to read is all about your eyes. Your eyes are going to take in photons from the world, process those photons to give you some kind of meaning. So when you see a word, you see the word dog, you see these letters, and these letters go into your brain, and then you can have a picture in your brain of what a dog is. This will trigger an idea in your internal experience of what is a dog. But if you have dyslexia and this word is all jumbled up, it might be it might be God instead of dog, because sometimes the letters don't match up in the right way, or maybe they don't even look like letters at all. But your eyes also have color sensitivity, so you may be colorblind. That's another form of diversity in terms of your sensory experience of the world. Most people have red, green, blue receptors that are tuned to a specific frequency, but sometimes those frequencies can overlap and the world looks a bit weird. The colors look different. And there are special glasses now that you can buy that will help to correct the color blindness. But your sensory interpretation of the signal is what is required for you to function in the world. With balance and coordination, this is all about your proprioception of the environment. The environment is full of things that you can touch, the floor and objects. When you touch them, your touch receptors in your skin will detect that they've met a resistance, and you can feel it, and there's different textures to things. And this all requires feedback from your nervous system. So when those signals go in from your skin to your brain has to interpret what is happening. For your balance, this is actually controlled partly by your ear. Inside your ear, you have some fluid that is detecting your orientation in space. And if there's any problem with the nervous system that's connected to that fluid system, then you may have problems balancing. And everyone will have a range of abilities in balance and coordination. And if you have problems with balance and problems with coordination, then you may be diagnosed with dyspraxia. So there's a whole range of different ways that you can express the DNA of a human being. And sometimes those expressions fall outside of the typical variation. You've got most people are in the middle, some people are on the outside. Just because you're on the outside doesn't mean there's something wrong with you, you're broken, you're just different, and you need different things to help you in life. But the problem is the world is designed for one type of person, and if you fall outside of that, it feels like a disorder because it's harder to function. But just because it's harder to function doesn't mean that you can't learn how to adapt to whatever condition you have. And if people were a little bit more understanding of the fact that some people are different, some people are not them, some people have different needs, some people have different wants, some people have different abilities. It's okay to have different abilities. It's not okay to ostracize, punish, and make someone's life a living nightmare because they function in a different way to you. So this video is really long already, so I'm gonna end it there. If you want a deeper dive on any of these things that we've mentioned in this video, then drop a comment down below, drop me a question or something that you want me to explain in more detail, and I can make a different video and I will explain a little bit more about what neurodiversity means. But if you are neurodivergent and you think that you would benefit from a community of people that are also a little bit weird, a little bit freaky, a little bit on the outsiders of society, then come join my Facebook group. There's a link down below, the Neurodivergent Lifestyle Community. And you can come, you can share your experience of life, you can get support if you need additional help. It's all completely free. And yeah, I will see you in the group. If you want to come join, click the link below, and I'll see you there.